into the book reviews. Could you just share with us a bit of a journey, if you can, please?
Well, as you could hear from my resume that you were sharing with everybody, it's been quite a journey. It's been a very exciting journey, and one that I'm incredibly passionate about. And I think that's the important part. I've absolutely loved what I do, and I've loved working with people. And for me, the biggest thing that I feel is important that I do is I love to learn. And more than loving to learn, I love to share what I learn. So everything for me is about that sharing. And that is about us all just getting our best lives. And I think, yes, I'm a financial planner, and I very much see a financial planner's role is extremely important. But the reason I see it as extremely important is because I want people to have better relationships with money. I want people to see a way that money can enable their life. But at the same time, people have to be thinking about themselves, be thinking what it is they want, and then, put money in that right place to enable it. So, it's a financial planner, but a bit of a different financial planner, and at the same time, incredibly passionate about promoting our industry, about making sure that everybody gets themselves a financial planner that they can resonate with, because then I think we can help people going forward.
So has it always been financial planning? Because I'm sure you studied psychology before that.
I did. When I went to university, it was psychology because I wanted to be a psychologist. Like life happens. We all have these plans, and as we chat today, you'll see I love planning. But I went to university, studied psychology, wanted to be a psychologist, and then opened a catering business. I mean, like you do. I mean, you study psychology to open a catering business. And a friend and I ran a catering business for a good 11 years, and I loved it because I was working with people. But at all the time, I had this yearning to go back to psychology. And really what I did was I went back and then studied my honours in psychology. And while I was busy studying it, I kept going, well, what are you studying it for? What are you studying it for? And my answer was, I'm studying it so I can help people with their relationships with money. And then I thought, who goes to a psychologist to discuss their relationship with money? Nobody really. Then I went, well, where do they go? They go to financial planners. Okay, I'll go and study to become a financial planner. That was exactly how it went.
So you did a U-turn.
I did a U-turn. And it was in my 30s where I did this U-turn. And then I had to find out about how do you become a financial planner? What do you have to study? And I went back and I did my postgraduate and got my qualification and then decided to become a financial planner. So, yes, it wasn't the way that it's normally done in our industry, completely differently. But that's my story, and that's how I came into the industry.
Wow.
I think, though, we can all say a lot of the people that succeed within the industry don't do it the normal way. I mean, like I've always said, I didn't study BCom. I did political science. I did my master's in social policy, but somehow this bug that I was running away from, because both my parents were in the industry, bit me. And once it bit, it stuck. So, no, I fully understand. And the odd thing, though, is that the most successful people in this industry, even Kobus Klein, did a U-turn in his 30s. That's quite interesting.
It's kind of like this industry chooses us.
It
It really is. And I think coming in with a fresh perspective, I often look at people who've been in the industry all the way through. Maybe they didn't have that fresh perspective. I came in, and I remember coming in at the beginning and talking to people and saying, you know what, you must have a heart connection with your client. You must make sure that you understand the psychological part of their relationship with money. And I remember some of the people looking at me going, I think this woman's lost. She's not going to be here long. She's not going to be in the industry long. And that was really kind of my introduction, because when I came in, I was trying to do it differently, and I was hitting an industry that had done it the same way for so long that they kind of did look at me like, I mean, I like to call myself a maverick, but I don't think they were looking at me as a red. I think they were just looking at me as a weirdo.
All right, fantastic, amazing story, Kim. Let's delve into the book reviews. I'll start with Lerato's favorite, Midlife Money Makeover. I think it really resonated a lot with her. So
something to do with our age?
Yes. Yes, it did.
So yeah, firstly, why did you feel it was important to write about the intersection of midlife and money? And I'm building on Bruce Whitfield's comments or endorsing words of saying, I quote, easy to follow lessons to take care of your future.
So I wrote Retiremeant first, and I know we'll get to that next. But and after I'd written it, so many people who came in to see me went, well, why don't you write for younger people? Why aren't you writing, if I'd known this stuff before, I'd be better positioned to have a retirement. So that was one reason. I was writing for people so that they could start these kind of habits and these kind of thinking ways earlier. But also, I was going through it. So, and I think there's nothing better than writing about something that you're journeying. Even when I think about coming into this industry and why I had this thing where I wanted to help people with their relationships with money was because of my own past. I'd come into the industry really being quite scarred by money. My father was controlling with it. We'd had a really dysfunctional family around money. And I think for me, I was healing something for myself. Talking about the book again, this was my own personal journey that I went on of discovery of how to make midlife one where it wasn't a crisis. These midlife crises that people talk about. And what I wanted to do for myself was always make it a chapter where actually I was running it and I was deciding what I was going to do and not unraveling. And I think that's why I wanted to share it in the book. I was sharing again, like I said earlier, I like to learn, but I also like to share what I learn. And every part of that book is my personal journey and then me sharing what I learned from it.
I think the other thing, as you said, maybe it's because of age. When I got to 38, 39, and I started getting closer to 40, then everything started shifting. Everything started falling into, are you on the right track with your finances? Have you made the right financial choices till now? And obviously, you look back and you're like, I could have done that better, I could have done that. Especially when you're in the industry and you're always helping others. As my daughter always says, I help people, the rich get richer. But what have I done for myself? So
there's only our children could do to us. So like, don't ever think that you can have an ego with children.
Like the spotlight is right there on you. And then you're like, okay. And then it puts everything into perspective and you're going, midlife crisis. But the nice thing I enjoyed about the book was that it was very easy to follow. And it was a to-do list. It really was. Can you talk about the journal that's attached to it and that?
Yes. I mean, for me, again, this was something I'd done. And in order to do this midlife work, you do also need to do some self-introspection. So it's not a book that you're just going to pick up and you're going to read. Because then for me, you haven't applied it. So the reason that I did it with exercises, so the way the book's structured is my kind of thoughts, learnings that I've had from people that I've traveled the world to meet, and then stories of people that are actually living it here in South Africa. And then finally an exercise to get you to reflect. And I realized not everybody likes to write in their books. Because when people write in their books, then they think they've messed the book up. So I did the journal to go with the book so that actually while you're reading it, then you do the exercise. Do the exercise. And that's when you can remember it. That's when you can apply it to your own life. Otherwise, it's just one of those books that you've read, but it didn't actually have that impact on you. And so that's why I did the journal with it.
I enjoyed the goals and putting everything into perspective. But it also makes you look at yourself, and you're right. It's a reflection of who you are, where you want to go, and ensuring that everything just speaks to each other. And that was very interesting.
Because none of this work is easy work. So, we all go, especially us as financial planners, and in the financial industry, we go like, do as I say.
Yeah.
Not necessarily as I do. And maybe that's what your daughter was implying. But so the book is for people in the industry. I also like to share the learnings and stuff I do with clients, so people in the industry can also do it with their clients, because not everybody's comfortable in my space of the more behavioral psychology kind of place. Some people call it the soft place, which I don't know why. And it was for that person who was in the midlife going, I want to do this better, I want to do this differently, and I wanted it to be something that they could really easily apply in their lives.
Right. Kim, I think we've started on a very good foundation, and that it'll ties in with the chapter titled Press Pause, Mindful Midlife Pause. What does it mean to consciously create the next chapter of our lives, if I ask?
So I think we spend a lot of our lives on a treadmill. So we just have to think about our stuff ourselves. Is it a treadmill? Is it a hamster wheel? You know, but we go and we go and we go, and we got stuff to do. We've got places to go, and we're busy. And then before we know it, I mean, this is what I get told by people.
Yeah.
Life's gone past.
Life's gone past. And they're told they're retiring, and they say, like, how did this happen? They're telling me I've got to retire. And I go, well, you know, when you started there in your 20s, didn't they tell you that in your 60s you're going to be retiring? But it still comes as a shock because we're so busy just doing life.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a conscious decision that I'm going to take some time out. I'm going to pause.
Yeah.
I'm going to just pause and maybe connect with my inner self, connect with that inner voice that speaks to me, and go, okay, let me look at this with a clean slate. Let me not just do everything because I've been doing it that way. Not do everything because it's what's expected of me. Not do everything because it's what everybody else is doing, but rather go, okay, if it turns out well, how will it look? And I promise you, when I give people that question, it's frightening, because people go, I don't know. Don't ask me that question, please don't ask me that question.
You actually specifically mentioned that that's the hardest part of the process. That's the hardest part
often
of the
is
process,
because we've been so busy.
Yeah.
And we've been so busy being providers. We've been so busy being nurturers, looking after, if we've had children, it's looking after children. If we've got partners, it's making sure our partners are fine. It's making sure our work colleagues are fine. So we're so busy doing all of this for everybody else that the hardest part is stopping and going, what do I want?
Yeah.
What is going to make me happy? What's going to bring me meaning, and what's going to bring me joy? And that's why this pause is so important, because it's actually getting still so that we can hear some of the inner voices. Because otherwise we're hearing more the ego voices, and we're hearing everybody else's voices, what our parents wanted for us, what our partner wants for us, what our children want for us.
And societal expectations.
Yep, big one.
Because when I evaluated the pressing pause part, you also have what society expects you to have achieved at a certain age, or where your life should be according to your family. So you're always looking at external factors and never listening to yourself. And you're right by saying that we are always running on this treadmill non-stop. You're always thinking, life, you can't stop in life. I've got this, I've got that. I have to do it all at the same time and somehow find a balance. It's true, though. You need to press pause and look at it and reevaluate and see if everything is where you want it to be.
Okay, great. Kim, in the Money Makeover section, you mentioned the ones that got away phrase, and that's the Reflection 11. Can you highlight some of the common financial mistakes that people make?
Well, I think the biggest one that we all make is thinking that we'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we know it. So we go, you know what, I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow comes, and there's always another expense that's more important. And we'll just get our children through school, or we'll just get married, or we'll just buy that house. So I think that for me is our biggest mistake we make, is not bringing it in as a habit immediately. So it's kind of, I always recommend to people to pay yourself first.
Yeah.
So the next one is, what people do is they will invest, or they will save the money that's left over in the month. So they go, okay, well, what's left over will be what my investment is. But if we consciously go every single month, let's say, and we have a bond, we pay the bond, or we have a car and we pay our car, why is that not the same thinking for our investments? So for me, that's a big one that people don't do. So yeah, we're putting it off. We're not bringing it in as a habit, because when we bring it as a habit right in the beginning, and it can compound and compound, I mean, basically we know we get the results that we want. And I think maybe just one more on those that get away from us as well is we don't go and ask for help. So we go, I mean, even people in the industry, we go, well, I'm going to just do it myself. And when we're just doing it ourselves, there's always something that comes in the way. There's always that fact that we're not being held accountable.
Yeah.
And I think, that would be probably, there's a lot more, but that's a good taster.
Lerato,
I think the other thing that you did mention was paying yourself first. And previously we had spoken that paying yourself first is not always about splurging on yourself. Just making sure that you've put something aside for yourself before everything else. Can you elaborate on that, just so people put everything into perspective and not think about it's a purchase?
Yes, often I think what we do is we don't realize the value of having these kind of investments to give us the freedom to choose. So when people tell us to invest, or when people tell us to have your retirement savings, we kind of feel like people are forcing us to do that. But what we're talking about here is a conscious choice that you want to have the investments for you so that you've got freedom to choose. Now, what that might mean is that you want to buy yourself, maybe pay for yourself to go and get another course or a degree.
Yeah.
It might mean that you want to get a pair of shoes. Yeah. It might mean that you want to take that holiday with your family. But there's all these different things that you want to do, but you need to kind of prioritize them. And the way, so it's another thing to put onto it. The way I say is, first look at what your values are in life. Like, look what your values are. And understand that for you, this is an important value system. And then when you know what your important value system is, then you can go, okay, let me prioritize those things. Because otherwise people feel that other people are telling you that you can't have, let's use shoes, because I love shoes. You can't have that pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I choose not to have that pair of shoes because guess why? I want to see my investment grow because I would like to take my family on a beautiful experience. Or guess what? I want to make sure that I can go and do a career that I really want to do because I've got the money as the backing for me to make those kind of choices.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers the question.
No, it does.
Great. Kim, how does one's relationship with money impact both the financial and personal well-being? And that's emphasized in Reflections 13 and 14 in chapter 6.
So most people don't realize they have a relationship with money. I mean, so when I say to people, you've got a relationship with money, and they kind of look at me again, but we develop this relationship with money, and it's quite subconscious. I mean, we're not consciously thinking we have a relationship with money. And for some of us, money is a friend. And for a lot of people that I talk to, money is not a friend. Money is that thing I don't want to talk about. If I speak about it, you know what I mean? It's not going to be seen as appropriate to be speaking about it. The stigma of speaking about it. So very much, I mean, you need to think about your relationship with money. So it's just stopping and going, is money my friend? Is money serving me?
Yeah.
Or am I working for money? Like, what place does it have in my life? Is it an enabler? And I think if you can just, first of all, recognize you have a relationship with money, you can then assess, where did it come from? And that's what I'm talking about your relationship with money. Go back to your past. So a lot of this work in midlife is looking at what your past is, because a lot of the beliefs that you've picked up along the way might not be beliefs that are serving you right now.
Yeah.
So I think midlife, and we'll probably chat about it just now, is a period also of editing out some of the parts that we've picked up on the way, the baggage we've picked up. And one of those is often our relationship with money.
Yeah.
I think I previously mentioned this, that obviously because I come from a financial family, I was always taught about that relationship with money. Always, when money treats you well, when you treat money well, it treats you well too. So always ensure that. And it's funny because you talk about the relationship that you have, and it's very true that when you have a good relationship with money, even it coming out of your pocket is easier.
Because that's exactly what I'm writing about. Because when I speak to people, they don't give it any attention, no focus whatsoever. Okay, so often when I meet people and I say, we're going to talk about your money and your relationship with money, they say, no, I don't do money.
Yeah.
I don't do money. So and so takes care of my money, or so and so worries about that. Not me. Like I learned from a young age, I'm just not good with money, and so I don't do money. Like in this world where everything involves
money.
How can you say that kind of thing? But that's what some people believe, is that they really don't do money. And then I always go, if you don't do money, guess what? Money does you.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of this bad relationship with money comes in, because you won't focus on it, you won't talk about it, and you won't give it any attention.
No, that's true.
Kim, funny enough, it's a question that I'd like to probably pose to you at the moment. Like, in your professional experience, have you noticed any changes in how individuals approach life planning during the midlife stage? I mean, particularly touching on the post-COVID era. Did you see any shifts in people's strategies, especially in discussions in Part 4, and again, bringing back the relationship aspect of it?
Look, I think none of us are the same after COVID.
Yeah.
I do think we all changed. I think we all, it kind of stopped us in our track, because I think so many of us, and I'll talk even for myself, I kind of thought we were in control. Kind of thought we were doing this thing. And then when something like COVID happens, it was so uncertain. We all felt so vulnerable. I mean, there was a time where none of us knew if it was ever going to come back to normal, if we were going to get our salaries, whether our companies were still going to be in business, whether we were going to be able to carry on paying for our homes, whether we were all going to ever leave our homes to go out and connect with each other. So no client or no person is the same, I don't think, pre or post COVID, because it changed us. So what I have seen is people living with a lot more fear.
Wow.
Because when I chat to people and we do this kind of work, they do remember that, because now that becomes part of your memory bank, that happened in your life where you didn't have enough. And I think people are trying to be better with money. I do think they're trying not to overspend. But at the same time, what's happened is we've got inflation. We've all our expenses have gone up like hugely. We've got a whole lot more economic instability. We've got a whole lot of political instability. So people are struggling. So they want to put these good habits in place, but things are costing so much more, and there's so much more responsibility. So I can't say to you, people are way better now and they invest way more and they're not spending too much, because that's not true. Things are hard. I mean, we've got a lot going out there, but I think we're open to having these discussions more. I think we've seen what it was like not to have. So remember, we were a generation where things hadn't really gone that wrong. I mean, the younger generation.
I think as well, that contingency plan that you thought you had, and then when COVID happened, and then you notice that, okay, maybe there was no plan there in the first place. But now people are trying to adjust and also, have buffers in the way. But like you said, interest rates, inflation, cost of living, that has just now brought in another, carpet pull beneath you. I mean, we see houses have gone up by like 6,000 over the past 2 years. And that is also a huge strain on our finances as well. What you were paying like in 2022 has gone up by like 6,000 Rand now on your mortgage. And that is also big. So I mean, for me to sit here and say, it's all just, we all now, doing it the way we should be doing it is unfair, because I think we're trying harder. I do think we're trying harder. But things have also, as we're chatting, got more expensive. But I think what's something else that I've picked up with people and how they've changed is material things aren't as important. That's true.
That's true.
So I've noticed with people going, you know what, I am going to make some changes, because it doesn't really matter if I get another car. It doesn't really matter if we go move to a bigger house. I've realized that the simple things in life are the things that bring me happiness. So that for me is a big positive that we all picked up over this period, and I think that's going to help us with our planning. And for me, that is, if you can think like that, all of a sudden those things maybe that were more exterior, showing that I was successful, are not as important anymore, because actually people are looking more for that peace of mind and not having all of that debt that they had before.
Right. Perfect. Kim, you've touched on fear as one of the key factors in people making their financial decisions as of late. Is it ever too late to reassess how effectively we can manage our finances, especially bringing the fear factor into consideration now? I mean, as you said, pre-COVID, that didn't play a bigger role. But at the moment, people are scared about, their pots, the nest. Is there something that will take me over the next 20, 30, 4 years? Or if something pops up that I'm not expected of, am I covered? So how has fear contributed to this?
So what we don't want to do is live in fear. Because when we live in fear, I mean,
you make bad decisions.
We make bad decisions. We way too emotional. So I think what I would recommend is that we have it there, and we know we're building, as we talked about a little bit earlier, contingency plans. So the what ifs. If this happens, will I be able to do this? If this happened, will I be able to do it? Because we still need to be planning, and we still need to be positive. Because otherwise, I think it's just too overwhelming, and then it's definitely going to be what our reality is. So we don't want that to happen. So, and that's where planning comes in. Where planning is so important. It's planning for what it is we do want, and then going, but I have these things in the background if it doesn't go according to that. So again, that's where those investments come in. That's why you're paying yourself first, so that you've got that kind of backstop if things don't go according to plan. And I think that has been a positive outcome of the COVID. But also when we talk about midlife, let's go to this midlife. I think the big things that I try and encourage people is they're going to work longer. Because people had this thing, I used to meet them and they used to go to me, oh, no, I'm going to retire by the time I'm 55. Or I don't want to be working by 50, and it's like my goal. But what does that mean for us? It means that, well, we're going to have another 50 years post 50. Where we're not going to be adding meaning and doing that. So I do think, I do encourage people to work longer. I've encouraged people to find work that they find meaningful and that they feel like they're valuable. That's a big one. And then, to look at your spending. So the two things we can control is how much we're spending and how long we're going to work. And when we can bring our spending in line, and when we can get the mindset right that we're going to work longer, all of a sudden we don't have that big pressure on ourselves. Because as we've got this huge pressure on us, I haven't been doing investing for the 10 years. Now I have to be investing 50% of what I'm earning because I'm a little bit late. And then we go, it's overwhelming, I can't do any of it. So we do nothing. and my whole message is it's never too late. We need to still be doing this right the way through. I will often meet people in their 50s that haven't done any savings.
Wow.
And they come and you can't make something out of nothing for them. I can't invest nothing. And then I always just go, okay, let's look at this. You are your greatest asset. Let's invest. You need to do things to invest in you so that you can carry on working potentially till you're 75. And then you'll have income coming in, and now start putting all of that into place and putting it away. But if I told them that then, it was too late, they need to now save 80% of what they're earning, they're going to save nothing.
I'm glad you touched on that, because I think it was just last week that Sean Cohen and I were also speaking about the same thing, that we believe that there's some sort of retirement fairy that's going to come in your 50s and just make some fairy dust sprinkle, and all of a sudden the next 10 to 15 years everything's going to shape up. I'm glad you're touching on the aspect that, yes, even if you start at 50, let's work towards you working until 75. Let's be realistic about where we're going. As well, people are living longer.
Absolutely. We're living, it's real. We're living to way into our 90s. It's not something now that some people are doing. It's lots of people are doing it. So, I've just been at the Modern Elder Academy in in Mexico with Chip Conley, and he's written this book about midlife and the 13 reasons to love midlife.
Yeah.
And the one is to go, well, if I'm 50, I've got all these years ahead of me where I'm going to be contributing because we're looking at this longer lifespan. So why have I got this artificial finish line of 60 or 63 that I'm working towards? I've got all of this time.
Yeah.
Because, Lerato, going back to what you're talking about, is when we're looking for that, we go into schemes. We go into those get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah.
So we now, we're greedy because we go, well, I haven't done anything. I literally now haven't got a lot. So what I'm going to take of what I've got, it must make me big money quickly.
Yeah.
And then we read about those ones we hear about
Ponzi schemes and everything else.
Yeah, and it's usually the elderly that are susceptible to these ones. Yeah.
Because just like, they're desperate. So they think, well, I haven't done it, so I'll it's like gambling.
Yeah.
I'll just take a lotto ticket, or I'll get this investment with these 20% returns. And that's where they're getting themselves into trouble. And it's way better to have the approach of, even if I haven't done it the way I should have done it, but I'm going to do it in a disciplined, conscious way, as opposed to quickly.
Right. Kim, you, earlier on in the conversation, you touched on habits. And we have to have a conscious decision of making over those habits so that you have a good relationship with your money. I like that theme in your book. What practical advice would you give to individuals seeking to enhance their financial literacy and also being saving during their midlife stages?
So before I go into that, let me just tell you that there's a brilliant book, and I don't get any royalties on it at all, called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I write about it in my book because James Clear just has a way of getting us to understand habits and getting us to implement them.
Yeah.
And so even though it's not a financial planning book, I would encourage people to start with that. Because the habits that we need to put in place are really quite basic in financial planning, but yet they're so difficult for us to achieve.
Yeah.
And even just repeating them, I know we all know it, it's spending less than we earn.
Yeah.
It's not buying things on revolving credit cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
And things like it. Yet it's what everybody does.
Yeah.
We were having a talk this morning about the two-pot retirement system that's coming in.
And giving access to that
and everybody getting
channel.
so excited now because how much money are they potentially going to be able to get later this year when this whole system comes in place? How much are they going to be able to access? And it's those kind of things that we're doing, that it causes us not to be in the right habits. So the right habits are paying ourselves first. So when our salary hits our account, having a debit order into an investment.
Yep.
So for me, that's a great habit to have in place, Another great habit to have in place is actually just to spend some time looking at what you're spending.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's the scariest thing. They call it a budget, and they don't like doing budget. That budget is a swear word. So I call it a spending plan with clients. I say, can you fill in the spending plan for me? And they say, well, what's the difference between a budget and a spending plan?
Same
thing. I just spun the name a little bit different because if we know where our money is going, we can also pick up where money is going, where it shouldn't be going. Because all of the time we've got debit orders of things that we're not using, but we never check in and we just see if it's going well or it's not going well. So, that's for me how simple the habits that we do really are. They're not these big things because people will go, oh, well, I need to go from, having no money to $1 million. And I go, well, how do you think you're going to get to $1 million? You're only going to get to $1 million.
But it's creating that habit to save.
And stacking it in one and then next one. So I come back. Don't overwhelm yourself by setting the targets so high that you can't achieve them.
Yeah.
Because the minute you do that, you stop. Whereas if you can make it achievable, so let's just say you go with it and you go, I'm going to do one thing first. And when I do the one thing right, I'm going to bring the second thing in and the third thing. But we as our personalities go, I want to do it
all at the same time.
All at the same time.
All at the same time. And haven't we learned yet that when we do it all at the same time,
we drop them all at
10
the
days
end of the
time,
day.
it's gone. So that stacking of the habits for me is also a really important concept of starting one, getting it right, adding the second one, getting it right, adding the third one. Then all of a sudden we don't notice.
And interestingly, with the habits earlier, it's I think these are quite simple behaviors to incorporate in your life, but it's just we don't want to change. That's how I look at it.
I think we always make excuses.
Excuses, exactly.
And we always find reasons of why not to implement things right now.
Yeah.
As I was about to say earlier, it was that the beautiful thing about reading your book, and I could be like, I'm testimony to certain things, creating those habits. Because after doing it a month or 2 or 3, then you can introduce the next level to it. And you do that habit for 3 months, and you introduce, and I've noticed a difference, a shift. But then call me Scrooge McDonald as well, because I'm the one that will know where every cent in my bank account goes. So I will always do the spend. But then it's also something that it's a habit you created when you were younger, that you were taught on how to understand your relationship with money, know where it's going, in order for you to know the returns and where they're coming from. I like the manual as well that you've also implemented.
So I just want to add one thing to you, as you said, what you learned in your childhood. And it was a great habit to learn, to be able to allocate, know where your spending is going. But often when I see people and they're writing down every last thing they spent and they're knowing exactly where every cent goes, I also say to them, okay, let's also think a little bit bigger. Let's talk about debt. People go, I don't want any debt in my life because debt is bad. But sometimes when we're opening up businesses, when we are looking about potentially having portfolio incomes coming in, I always say, like, look for different incomes to come in, not just the one form of income. So sometimes we need to think a little bit bigger because we can, as much as I do think we should know where our money is going, we mustn't become so obsessed with allocating all of that we're never thinking bigger about how do we get other streams of income coming in? How do we actually look where we could leverage something from a point of view to build a business that can give us another form of income? Because otherwise we will, in a way, just stay salaried employees. And with everything going and being so expensive and everything like that, it is quite difficult. So good habit, but sometimes it's to then assess it. Is this holding me back? Because sometimes that can bring in quite a scarcity kind of mindset. And how can I just think out the box a little bit?
That's good. I like the take on not all debt is bad, because I've always been of the mindset you can't be over-debted. Debt is bad. Clear as fast as possible. So I'm glad that you touched on the aspect that not all of it is bad. You can actually leverage on some of it to ensure that you have extra sources of income.
Especially if it's for business. I mean, you want a business concept and you've got a good plan and you've done as long as your business plan is done well, and then that's a way that you're going to get another income stream in years to come. So that's another thing when I look at people in the different stages of life. When we're younger, we can obviously take on more risk. What is difficult is when I'm sitting with clients like in their 50s who want to take their retirement savings to open businesses. And then I always go, no, ring fence the money you need for retirement because you haven't got time to make that back. But when we're younger, we can often take some of those chances, and then those chances then will be different income streams coming in. Because what I have picked up is that as we go into this midlife and even come into retirement, it is really nice when we can have different income streams coming through.
Okay. So we're actually moving into the next segment of chatting about retirement. So Lerato, we spoke about the possible link between the two books, and Kim, you said you actually started with Retiremeant before you wrote Midlife. What was the thought around it?
So when I entered the industry was 17 years ago, weird, I'd been going to retirement workshops in my 20s. Yes. So, because you start thinking back. And when I was restudying, when I went to do my postgraduate, I started interviewing people around this transition of retirement. I went and I actually started speaking to people and asking them how they did their retirements. I think it was stemmed from the fact that at 59, my father was unfortunately shot and killed in a hijacking. So he never got to have his retirement. And I remembered my dad so much talking about, when I retire, I'm going to take that trip. When I retire, I'm going to do this. When I retire, I'm going to do that. So I went out and actually, I wasn't even working in the industry yet. And I used to meet with people that were coming up to retirement, and I used to ask them the questions. And I remembered what I'd learned when I attended retirement workshops and seen it. And my message that I wanted to give people was to get more meaning from your money. And for me, it was really important that they didn't just sit in retirement and be so fearful and not enjoy their money and not have their experiences, and also put your life on hold for one day, because sometimes that day never comes. So there was this balancing act. So I was interviewing people, and I focused on retirement, and I developed a website called Retire Successfully through Chartered, where I work. For our clients, what we wanted them to do is to say to them, we wanted them to be getting return on life and return on investment. For me, just getting return on investment also what would be the point in it. So when I wrote Retiremeant, it was all that thinking, and I was focused much more on people in retirement and just near at and in retirement. And then as I've gone on, I've gone and I've worked with younger and younger people, because I've realized how important it is to start earlier.
I've actually enjoyed even just the way you spell it, Retirement, and how you want the retiring to have a meaning to it. Did you do that on purpose? Obviously,
I can't tell you how many people have let me know that I spelt it wrong.
No. I'm not saying you spelt it wrong. I'm just saying
I did in the beginning, and they said, "Kim, you spelled it wrong." So what I actually did, I had it trademarked. I mean, you have to go to lawyers to have words trademarked. But because I could put the TM there, and then people knew I hadn't spelt it wrong. But it was so important for me that we didn't view retirement the same way. Retirement doesn't mean not working. Retirement doesn't mean going to the coast and sitting on our lounges. Well, not lounges, our deck chairs looking out at the sea. There's always those stereotypical pictures of people in retirement. And I put the A in, because I wanted to say to people, let's do it differently. Let's make sure, because that word is always going to be there, because we have our retirement funds and we talk about retirement at work. I mean, I think the word should be scrapped anyway, but bringing the A in for me was a way that I could work with it. And for me, that was also just telling people, let's do it differently. Let's not do it like people did it in the past. Let's make sure we engage. Let's make sure we're contributing. Let's make sure that actually we're valuable.
Yes. I feel like people also frivol, and we all fall apart faster once you've retired with no meaning and nothing to do. So I think you also touched on about be active and ensure that you're involved.
Right. Always contributing. Contributing.
Okay, great. Kim, the significance of the A on the cover page. And then once you open the book, there's the first leaf. It really resonated with me quite a lot. You say the A holds so much weight in reshaping people's perspective on retirement. Was that the kaleidoscope motif you mentioned in the preface of the book, that one small shift in life?
So yes, I mean, for me always I am a glass half full kind of person. That's just my personality. But not everybody is. And I think so many times what we do is we go, oh dear, I have to be retired. I'm going on pension. My company's forcing me to do this. And for me, the kaleidoscope was really just, that's the viewpoint you've got of your life. Just take it like you would a kaleidoscope, shift it slightly, and you're going to see a whole different perspective. Because through all the research I did, and I did lots of research, attitude is everything. If we have the right attitude about aging, if we have the right attitude about our money, if we have the right attitude about retirement, it's going to turn out better. They talk about having a positive attitude as we age, and we can live at least 7.5 years longer. I mean,
Wow.
But if we're going, I am old, nobody wants me.
Yeah.
I mean, I have watched people come into this phase of life and get so depressed that they don't live very long.
Yes.
I've seen it firsthand. I've sat with people when they've lost that kind of purpose, and we talk purpose, but because they were working and they were contributing, and now they don't have that anymore, and they can see no value.
That loss of zest for life.
Yeah. I think it's quite important. I mean, that's zest of life. Kim, how has the concept of the second half of one's life evolved, drawing from your experience as a financial planner, and how does it relate to chapter 1 titled Knowing Me, Knowing You?
So in this chapter of our life, and probably all chapters, but I think a lot more as we mature, I think it's so important to accept who we are.
Yeah.
And understand who we are. So we spend most of our 20s trying to fit in. We do. I mean, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Even me, I can remember what it was like.
Yeah.
Just so desperately trying to fit in and belong and everything like that. So we always like molding ourselves so that we can fit in and belong. And I think that's half the problem, is when we're doing that, we're not being true to ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not loving ourselves, so we're always dissatisfied or searching. And knowing me, knowing you, is understanding my personality and going, guess what, Kim? I love you for the fact that you're the glass half full person. Not going, oh, Kim, you're terrible with details, and focusing on that. So I understand my kind of perspective. And then respecting that other people have a different perspective to me. I'm a great one for personality profiling.
Wow. Okay.
I think the Enneagram as a personality profiling tool gives incredible insights into who you are, where you're at your best, where you can really add value. Because I think too many of us spend a whole lot of time showing the world a version of ourselves that we think they want to see. And we keep a whole lot of ourselves hidden. And that whole lot of ourselves that we keep hidden is probably one of the most valuable parts that we should be showing the world.
Yep.
I think you're right there, because like you said, in your 20s you're still trying to fit in. Although I always said in your 20s you feel like you're invincible and nothing can catch up to you. And then you hit your 30s and everything is now falling into perspective. Life is now becoming full. And in your 40s you're playing, oh my word, this is where you start seeing people achieve, because now they've realized that they can't make excuses for what they did in their 30s and 40s. Now they're going to show the world who they truly are without any excuses added on. So you're right there by saying at some point you need to show the world yourself as they are. And I like the fact that the kaleidoscope, and also finding out your insights on who you are and your personality and how it fits into everything.
And then just loving yourself. So I know we're talking about financial books, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think if we get to that place where we accept ourselves and we love ourselves, we'll also need to spend less money.
Okay.
Because a whole lot of what we do is to show the world that we're successful, to show the world just what it is we do. Whereas when we're in a better place with ourselves personally,
there's no overcompensating financially.
Exactly. Moving into
very deep, eh?
Very deep. Right. So we're moving into chapter 2. You spoke about the 10 retirement truths and how they shape our understanding on retirement. Can you shed more light on that?
Well, I did write the book 9 years ago. But yesterday I was doing a retirement workshop and I did the retirement truths. So I can tell you clearly on them. And yes, I do. I love them. But so the reason I brought the truths in the book was just an easy way to remember a whole lot of the concepts from the book. So I've actually got an ebook that people can download on my website, and we'll give the details later, with these 10 retirement truths in it. And because for me it was just that quick way of going, let me just look at it. And the big one and the starting one, it's not about your age. Because we get so fixated on this age. Oh, I'm 50. Oh, I'm 40. But but importantly, it's how you feel. And how is it that you're coming across? I mean, you can be old when you're 40. You can really be if that's your mindset. So stop thinking about that chronological age and rather just do it on you more bringing yourself and doing the things that you can do. So that was the first one. And then I won't go through all 10 because that'll take us the whole interview. Maybe my other big one is if you plan, you prosper. That I had as a retirement truth in there. And many people say to me, no, Kim, but why would we plan? Because then life happens and then our plans don't go according to schedule. And so, no, I'm not going to plan. Because I get that all the time. But it comes back to that whole discussion that we've been having. If we have a plan, we know what it is where we should be allocating our money. We know how long we should be working. We know what we can be spending. Whereas when we don't have that plan, we might be putting our life on hold and not living. We might be overspending so early that when we get to 70, we don't have anything left. So having that plan is going to really help us. And that plan also helps us get, how could I say it? It helps us know exactly where we are. It helps us have that audit. Because a lot of us also live in a dream world.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. Then I meet other people. I'll never have enough. But they actually don't know. They've just decided that. Whereas the plan can actually show you both of those things. And then if life does go and there are a whole lot of curveballs that get thrown at you, at least you had a plan on how to tackle those. Otherwise, when they hit you, you're blindsided and you can't get through them. So those are my two favorite retirement truths out of the 10 that I share in the book. The people will have to read the book to find out about the other 8.
I was about to actually ask, so the plan part, is it the planner in you? Because you did say that you initially did psychology because of the planner in you. You went and did events because of the planner in you. Now you're in financial planning because of the planner in you. It just shows the consistency in you as a person and your personality as well.
Yeah, and you can take that wisdom so, between different careers. I mean, that's what I always say to people. Intrinsically, who are you as a person? That person, those skills and that wisdom. And very much we're talking midlife, we're talking retirement. There's so much wisdom that we've gained through all of this. Hone in on what that wisdom is. Okay, so for me, I'm a good planner. Okay? Hone in on that. Bring that wisdom and that strength. And you've actually got a contribution that you can make. And when you've got a contribution you can make, you can also make an income from it. So, but many times people don't think about what their strengths are. They don't think about what they can contribute. And I think, given that, and it's back to that wisdom, it helps you through all of these transitions if you just know that about yourself.
Just staying with the power of planning, Kim, that's in chapter 3. And in our discussion, obviously, the books touch on the different stages of life in all walks of life. So how do people or individuals in various stages of life approach retirement planning? I mean, you look at maybe a person that started working, fresh graduate straight from varsity, started working. How do they look at retirement?
Well, they're never going to retire.
We're all invincible at that age.
I'm never going to retire. Why would I have to invest for retirement?
And you've got maybe someone who's at the brink of 40. How do they look at retirement? And then probably you're looking at someone also who's in the horizon of, damn, I'm about to retire. How do they view it? Obviously, all these 3 individuals I've mentioned have got different perspectives to retirement.
Different perspectives, and also we different generations. So we just have to look at all the different generations going through, and definitely the younger generations are thinking about retirement completely differently. But one thing that we all have in common is we start taking it way more seriously as we get older. I think that's common between all of us. We take it way more seriously as we get older. But, on a serious note on this, when you are younger, you do think you're never going to retire. You are invincible, and you know what, it doesn't apply to me. And I think it's quite sad because, again, if we could just face the facts that there might be a time in our life where we're not going to be able to work. So again, that's throwing out the word retirement. And rather going, let me just save money and have investments so that depending what I decide, I have choice. So, and then I think we would get more younger people to invest because we say it's the retirement, they just can't see that they're ever going to get there.
Yeah.
But if they understood that it was just giving them choice in life, I think they'd be more open to it. So I think there's become a whole lot of the connotation of the word retirement that puts the younger generation off.
Okay.
No, I really do. And I mean, there will be a time in your life where maybe you're not earning an income. And then you have to go to other people to support you. And I think that is the one common thing that I also hear from different people, all different ages. They don't want to have to go to other people to support them. They want to be self-sufficient. Yeah. You know, so people come to me and they say, well, Kim, how much is enough? I don't ever want my children to have to look after me. Yeah. And I think just changing the conversation, it's maybe just having the conversation around, like, what does it mean to you? And maybe getting more young people sitting around a table and explaining to them some of the basics, because we don't talk about it, even as families. You don't talk about it, and you kind of, you just see how other people have done it. And then many young people I speak to, they'll go, oh, well, I don't want to be like so-and-so because they're so obsessed with money and it's all they talk about, so I'm not going to do it that way. But then they end up, a lot of people, being so obsessed with money because they don't have it. That's all they're thinking about, is that they don't have it. So it's very much, and I encourage always conversations.
Do you therefore think that it's easier now that people are coining the term lifestyle financial planning instead of retirement planning? Yeah. Because now it's allowing younger people to think about lifestyle options instead of, let's now look at what we're going to do for retirement planning.
Exactly. So as a business even, we used to have our byline as Retire Successfully. Yeah. And last year we went through a rigorous process of reassessing what it is we do. And we've changed that to planning with purpose. So you can plan with purpose at any age. And plan with purpose, plan with intention. So whether you're in your 20s or whether you're in your 60s, put intention behind why you're doing it. And that lifestyle, you're talking about your lifestyle and relating your money to your life. Because the money is the enabler of your life. So if you're clear on your goals, if you're clear on what it is you want for your life, you'll understand the importance of focusing on your money, because your money is going to provide that.
Okay. Kim, in chapter 4, you discussed quite a lot about living the second life purposefully. And what opportunities and challenges do individuals encounter beyond traditional retirement goals when they're in that phase of the second life? I'm looking at making the most out of it. Some think that, what we've been told, it's after 65, you're on your porch on a house near a beach, or you now render yourself useless and you just chill on the couch and watch TV, news specifically. How do you make the most out of that second life, and how can you plan to make the most out of it? I'm asking.
I think it's going back to what we discussed a little bit in the Midlife Money Makeover part of this discussion. It's the pausing. Yeah. It's the pausing to really ask yourself what it is that brings you joy, what it is that brings you meaning. So many of the clients I work with the Wheel of Balance on it, and I show them the different aspects of work, of give back, of relationships, and I go through all of that with them, because for so many people it'll be a different thing that brings them the purpose. Yeah. So I might talk to you, and for me it's work, and I need to carry on working. You, it may be that you love give back and you like to be adding value in the give back arena. A lot of you, it may be that you want to be the best granny one day. No, and you know what? It is no judgment, and I think this is the whole thing. It's working out for yourself, which is that zone where you want to contribute. I mean, I've had clients that look after donkeys, orphan donkeys. They are so happy because they're looking after orphan donkeys. I've got other people that are building train sets and all of that, and other people that are making wood toys and giving it out to charity events. But you can see the excitement in them when they talk about that. Yeah. So that's what I go back to. It's no judgment, but it's working out for yourself what gives you that. Because people often, when I tell them the purpose part, people hate that word. They go, like, what's purpose? Like, what is purpose? Do I have to be, I don't know, like, you know, because Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
Again, it's like we set that high expectation, you know, only those kind of people have purpose.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We all have purpose in our own way, and that is recognizing for ourselves what brings it to us. So it is part of that whole process of reflecting, of working out what's going to bring it for you. And then I think if you living that life purpose, you can see those people that are. You really can, and you can even watch the way they age.
Yeah.
You can watch. I mean, I think of so many clients now that are in their 80s, running soup kitchens, working and doing things, and I go, wow, that's amazing. I mean, I've got one lady that writes articles and travels overseas still, and she's in her 80s, and you go like, how? That was unheard of for people that age, but you can see they're living their purpose.
Yeah, Kim, I think Lerato and I, when we chose which we'll start reading this book, and obviously I took Retirement. This is something that I picked up whilst reading the book, and also the conversation we're just having now. It's eliminating fear about the second life and actually bringing in excitement, inspiring. Yeah, and actually looking forward to it, to say, okay, fine, there's going to be a new adventure later on in my life. How am I going to work towards it? How am I going to make the most out of it? I think it's a good way of thinking to share with probably the people that are on the verge of living that second life. Yeah.
I think I would also blame society and what society ruled as being correct. Purpose for society was societal recognition.
And earning money.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes, and most times in retirement, we're not earning money anymore. And if that's the only thing that we've seen as our value.
And society also just said retirement just means you now packing up your things out of the office, going to go sit at home on your porch, drinking tea, coffee, and then going to church every alternate week. And that is what retirement should be. And the beautiful thing about retirement is ensuring that there's more meaning to you retiring. And also retiring doesn't mean you have to retire at 60 or 65. Retiring is when you are good and ready to sit down and be more active in other ways in society, not just going to your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Maybe I can just share the definition of retirement.
Okay.
So for me, and it took a lot of work to come up with the definition, but I wanted it to be a time in your life where you got to live your unfulfilled dreams, but in your own time, and that's the important one, and on your own terms. So the one thing about us working in the formal way, we have X amount of leave. We only really get the weekends because we're exhausted. And if you've managed to have this pot of money that can fund you in this period, you get to choose. You get to choose, or maybe you phase out of work, you only work 3 days a week. Maybe you get to choose where you're doing a whole lot of give back and you're not having to earn money. But you need to, I encourage people to define it for themselves. So to not go with the old adage of it's not working and what you know, it's maybe playing only golf or whatever. It's actually defining it for yourself. And then when you can define it for yourself, like I did with unfulfilled dreams in my own time, on my own terms, all of a sudden I'm back in the driver's seat. And I think that's what happens to people. They feel like when they're in retirement, they've got no more autonomy, they've got no more choice. And then so they lose that kind of way of doing life. That they're just sitting waiting. And no, we're not sitting waiting. We've got lots to contribute through our 60s, our 70s, our 80s. And we need to go out there and do it. So back to the kaleidoscope. Twist that kaleidoscope of what your view is of this chapter. And you go and do it differently. Don't go and do it like other people have done it. And don't listen to all these stereotypes and beliefs that have been put in place about ageism. Make it different.
Great. I think you've touched on also getting back onto the driver's seat. And I think this is a challenge that most people do come across when they leave work, get into retirement. What practical experience have you come across whereby people literally struggle in that transitional phase? I mean, and what are some of the common mistakes stated in chapter 6 that you've also observed, Kim?
So I think next one for me is that they don't give themselves the opportunity to think what they want. So people are great at saying what they don't want. they really are. So it comes back to that question. What does retirement look like if it turns out well? Because people always can tell you what they don't want. So if you can start with that, what does it look like if it turns out well? Those mistakes won't happen. And those mistakes are where they believe, that they can sleep late. People go, I can't wait. I can't wait to give up work. I am counting the sleeps till I give up work. I'm going to sleep late. I'm going to be on a permanent holiday. And then and then they get like 2 years into it, and then they come and see me and they say, well, I'm feeling depressed. I'm not contributing anymore. I'm sick of living out of a suitcase. So it's kind of dividing it up back to that balance and saying, well, I want to do a bit of leisure. I want to do a bit of work. I want to still carry on learning. There's so much that I can still be learning. I want to be in good relationships, and I want to be having some fun. And I really do believe that we forget to have some fun in this whole period. So for me, you won't make the mistakes if you define what it looks like if it turns out well. Or you won't make as many mistakes. Because you'll be proactively going out there and doing it instead of waiting for life to happen and then you just...
And reacting to it.
Also, out of interest, what are the common ups and downs? I mean, you just mentioned hitting that brick wall 2 years down the line, you've had enough.
But there are lots of ups and downs. And that's also not to put people off. People think retirement is the last transition. Let me just tell you how many transitions you see that come. Health, big one, And looking after your health and going out there and still walking and keeping your muscles strong and doing all of that. I mean, that is like a big one. The other one for me that is also really big is, I'm still talking on health, is what you think in your mind. It's living with stress and worrying about everything that you can't even control. I mean, you will often speak to people and they will tell you about, we all know. I know electricity, our roads, all of this kind of stuff. And what do? They go into retirement. They've worked their entire lives to get to this time. And all they do is follow the news and watch the markets and see how bad everything is and discuss how bad everything is. But they've got no control over any of that. Nothing. But
so they created doomsday for themselves.
And as we get older, people can do that. Yet, like a lovely message for me to share with you all is another thing that I've been researching is happiness and how post age 50 we can be our happiest we've ever been in our life.
True.
And how does that happen? That happens because we're more reflective and we're more grateful. So all of a sudden we appreciate the little things that we took for granted when we were younger. And there's a whole lot of studies that have been done around the happiness curve. And they've done it through all different countries. And it's proven over and over again is that we can be happier after the age of 50. But it's back to that attitude thing, and it's back to the gratitude, and it's watching for the small moments that we appreciate way more than we did when we were younger.
Great. Lerato, there's one traditional rule of needing that 70 to 80% of one's current salary hold up in relation to retirement financial planning. Let's discuss in the topic of bring on the balance. How do we factor that into our daily lives? I mean, as people that are employed full-time.
The funniest thing, and I always say to people, is the ideal way is the 70-20. That is ideal. But at least start with the basic of at least 10 to 15. Put that away for yourself. Because we know life happens. We also know there's responsibilities out there. Cost of living also increases. And there's always other impacting ways to it. So the best way is always say at least 10 to 15%. Put that away. Not even just for retirement. There's even if you put away 10% for your retirement and the other 5% is a contingency for life happening, because life does happen. And then you're not caught off guard, as Kim had said earlier, because sometimes when life catches you off guard, you have all the excuses in the world of why you're being caught off guard and why things aren't working the way that. And if we had started earlier, we would be in a better place. Kim had mentioned about compounded interest as well. So it's always about starting earlier and understanding why we're doing the things that we're doing. I mean, we lived through our 20s and our early 30s frivolously thinking that everything will always make up for it later.
Yeah.
And we put ourselves into giving enough excuses and enough reasoning behind why we make the choices that we do. But the other thing, and oddly because I'm also part of the women's network that Kim started. Yeah. So Kim always pulls you aside and goes, have you taken that holiday? So it's always look after yourself because you as yourself, you are the production wheel behind everything else.
So just essence.
Yes. So you are looking after your mom, you're looking after your daughter, you're doing that, you actually pitching up at work, but who's looking after you?
Yeah.
So I think the one thing that Kim always teaches is, yes, you'll do all the planning financially, but also do the emotional and physical and look after yourself because you're the asset that needs to produce. And you cannot have an output if there's nothing filled inside.
Kim, any thoughts of that? Lerato,
I think she did an amazing job. I could not.
That's my girl.
And it's conversations with her.
All right. Okay. So, in chapter 9, you mentioned or you wrote about the 9 bucket wheel no's. What do you believe are the major obstacles that people come across in order to build a successful retirement game plan?
So just maybe to mention what the bucket wheel is to start off with. There is the movie The Bucket List, which is quite an old movie, but it was all the things people wanted to do before they kicked the bucket. And what I find people do is they center a lot on just certain areas. So for me, the reason I created the bucket wheel was actually to say we need a list of things that we want to do, but we need to take the wheel of balance into account. So I combined the wheel of balance and the bucket list to make the bucket wheel. Because what I was seeing is that people were not thinking necessarily about their relationships, or they weren't thinking that they still had to be learning. So they were coming up with trips that they wanted to go on, or they were coming up with things that they wanted to do. But those things, then they were becoming too focused just in the one area. So I mentioned it earlier, like in our lives, the way people used to do it was all their learning, then all their working, and then all their leisure. So they compartmentalized it. So with that whole bucket wheel approach, what I'm talking about is combining some learning with some working, with some leisure, bringing it all together, worrying about your health and your relationships and everything, bring it in a mixture. So making a list of things, but in each area, not just focusing on one area, bringing in all these areas and then actually going out there and doing them, because I think we talk a lot about what we want to do and then some people just don't go and do them. So for me, the bucket wheel is a bit of an action plan of going, this is the list of the things I want to do. I'm going to tick them off and then I'm going to put some more on. As I take one off, I must add another one. So that's like a living document that's always changing, always growing. And in that way, it's keeping you as much, I mean, that whole meaning thing that we're talking about. It's helping you get that retirement with A in it.
Okay, great. How important is it for individuals to have a holistic plan and an accurate financial plan, if possible, in their pursuit of both?
You're asking a financial plan.
I'm not too sure if there's actually accurate, but holistic.
In their pursuit of both financial stability and personal fulfillment, as mentioned in your concluding thoughts within the book, Kim, you just maybe bring more light onto that factor.
I think I've mentioned it, I mean, as we've been talking today, it's that it takes out a little bit of the guesswork. So we as people, we do clever maths. And I mean, when I won something, I round it up. Or round it down, should I say.
Makes sense.
It's always cheaper that I could get it. I mean, it's a bargain, actually, and that's why I'm getting it. And I think it's just the same way when we're doing our own planning and our retirement planning, where we go, I'm sure I'm going to have enough, or I'm definitely not going to have enough. So, but there's no fact to any of it. It's just emotions. Whereas when you're doing the planning, you're sitting with somebody who's not emotionally involved in your life, who's objective, who's putting those numbers in and getting you, and it'll never be inaccurate. I agree with you. But what they are doing is they're giving you a better indication.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're guessing and we're doing all this maths in our head. And then for many people, they end up and they didn't even get to live because they were so scared. And then I've seen many others who way overspend in the beginning and then they're in trouble later. So having that financial plan, and also getting that financial plan, it's not just the money. I mean, it's the whole life part that we've been talking about today. And it's also looking at your estate planning. You know, we do all of this. We work, we provide because of people we love. We do. I mean, and yet, and that's why I think the whole estate planning part is also important, because we want to ultimately leave our stuff in a good fashion, so that one day when we're not here, we're leaving this legacy, and it doesn't mean it has to be lots of money, but we're leaving it in an ordered way for the people we love. And so I like to combine all those different aspects when I am looking at what a plan is.
Okay, great.
So the funny thing is, you touched on estate planning, and I know a lot of people find it as such a taboo to talk about life after death and how that's going to be set up. And estate planning is like, oh, you're already talking about my death, and you're already making plans of. It's so funny that it's such a taboo, but it should be an essential part of the legacy that you're trying to leave behind, and also just your day-to-day planning, because you will always have to leave a certain portion each month to go towards that estate plan.
You know how many families that I've seen broken up post someone's death? So we as families don't want to talk about it. You know, there's still the old-fashioned way of the wool only comes out when you're no longer here.
Yeah.
And then there's some unexpected things where family believe that certain members believe they should have got, and some don't. And then they start fighting with each other. Yeah. And I think it's back to that whole thing that I encourage in all my books: have the conversations.
Yes.
Have the conversations. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your children are not going to fight with each other when you're no longer here. Be straight with them. Tell them what it is you want. It's not a taboo topic as far as I can see, because for me, the families that I've seen destroyed are the families that don't talk about it. And then it's like this kind of surprise, or where people haven't got a will and people just didn't get round to doing it. And then what do they leave? They leave a mess. And then they leave people scrambling, and they leave one person taking charge and then one person feeling that they were left out. So as hard a conversation as it is, it's one that really, really helps you sleep well at night, because you know what? I've taken care of it. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Now I'm going to get on with living.
Okay, great. Kim, we always use this platform as a conduit to sharing a positive message to our listeners. I mean, on your concluding remarks before Lerato reads it as for us, do you have anything to just share with our listeners, and just to bring in a message of hope? I mean, in these trying times.
Well, for me, it's people often think of money as so difficult, and they think of investing as so difficult, and they see it as such a complex world. And because it's such a complex world, they don't get into it. And really my message of hope is, and my message that I encourage people is to spend the time and find the financial planner that they can resonate with, or find the person that they can resonate with to partner with them, to make this not such a complex world. Because I think in everything we've got to do, money is going to touch us at every transition and every stage of our life. So best we become friends with it. And if it means that we have the support of somebody else to help us with it, I think it's worth doing the work. It's so empowering. And then it doesn't have the power if we've gone out there and we've spoken about it, we've worked with it, and we've put that kind of plan in place. So yes, it is tough out there. People are considering what their options are all the time. But the fact of having that plan and having an intentional investment of what they need really is so empowering, and I think it just leads us all to have what I was talking about earlier, that return on life and the return on investment.
Okay. Great. Lerato?
I've enjoyed reading both books. I think the one thing that resonates most to me is living with intention. Even with finances, your finances, there should be intention behind it, having goals. There's been a lot of learning curves throughout all your books, because the nice thing about all your books is that they also have journals and activities attached to them. So it's not just a book that you just pick up, you read, you forget about it. You're also holding people accountable and saying, yes, you've read this, but have you done the work?
Yeah.
And how far are you in the work? And it also comes back to helping people with their financial planning, with their estate planning. Tatenda knows I'm very big on succession planning and estate planning and having the conversations. And I'm very happy that you also touch on, have the conversation. There's nothing taboo about any of our finances. We all have relationships with money somewhere or another, but everyone should have a conversation about it.
Well, that's why I actually called my blog that I write. I write a blog every month. I always wonder who's reading it, but I write it every month. It's called Courageous Currency Conversations.
Yeah.
And I really just encourage people to just make this more a part of their everyday conversation and not just a conversation when things are going wrong.
Great. Thank you so much.